Welcome to Pharmaceutical Executives podcast series, Managing in the Era of Lean, featuring winners of the 2011 Emerging Leadership Awards, brought to you by Cegedim Relationship Management, the life sciences industry's leading provider of CRM, marketing, regulatory compliance, and data management solutions. For more information, please visit them on the web at www.cegedim.com.
Hello and welcome. I'm Jennifer Ringler, Associate Editor of Pharmaceutical Executive Magazine, and I'm pleased to moderate this podcast, which is one in a series of our 2011 Emerging Pharma Leaders podcasts, which focuses on leadership in a lean market. This describes the organizational imperative in most big pharma and biotech firms today, to find new and better ways to leverage resources of both human and financial capital to achieve a competitive advantage in an increasingly crowded market for medicines. It is also driven by the consolidation of payer strength in driving pricing and reimbursement decisions, which threatens to lower industry margins unless there is a significant gain in the efficient deployment of company assets. Hence, lean management is actually a driver of innovation, particularly on the neglected side of business processes as opposed to products. To speak on these topics today, I'd like to welcome Evan Lippman, Executive Director for Crestor at AstraZeneca. Welcome, Evan.
I really appreciate the opportunity.
I'd like to start by asking you, as a leader, how do you motivate your staff in an environment focused on doing more with less?
Certainly. I think that's a very interesting question, because I think underlying the statement of doing more with less is sort of a basic concept of need for change. And, individuals and organizations as a whole frequently have difficulty, I think, with times of uncertainty. What are their roles? What's their success look like? And as a leader, it's kind of paramount to be very clear on the direction. What's that North Star that we're kind of pointing at? Strategic intent. You owe it to your people to be very upfront about what we're looking to accomplish. And I think, lastly, you really have to sort of set the expectations and the outcomes. Not really always how we're going to get somewhere, but what great looks like. Aspirationally, it'd be very important to help motivate people to say, what is the goal that we're trying to accomplish? And why is it important we accomplish the goal? Because it helps create, I think, a sense of common purpose, and it allows people to have the space and the freedom to innovate, create, and ultimately perform. Because, doing more with less isn't really about cutting costs. It's got to be about increasing the impact of your activities and creating the space your teams need to excel. Ultimately, all of this is sort of customer-driven. I think, in our company, we have a very strong performance culture. And in a performance-based culture, people can really get behind the idea of doing more with less and generate step change in how a company can achieve its results. And I think that's what you want to motivate your people to do, ultimately produce and realize that step change in your organization.
So as more functions are outsourced with a focus on a leaner market, what is required to maintain essential oversight and control? And is there a risk of dilution of quality and integrity in the drive for increased efficiency and lower costs?
I think there are really two parts to that question when I think about it, around quality and integrity. And if I can, I'll focus on integrity first. I think you really have to approach that as a non-negotiable. You can never sacrifice integrity for increasing efficiencies or lower costs. I think if you start with that point, then a couple things probably do fall off the table, but it does help give you some vigilance and oversight appropriately, and it becomes part of the equation. So you can definitely outsource, definitely, but you can never do that for the sake of diluting any aspect of integrity. And so I think from our organizational standpoint, as I said at the beginning, it really becomes a non-negotiable. So when we look at it from that lens, you really want to take the quality angle. And can you maintain quality if you're going to outsource? And what I find that, quality does really require establishing a specific skill set, because inherent in outsourcing is the idea of letting go. And where I've seen outsourcing work really, really well is where directors and managers appropriately communicate what they're looking for specifically, whether it's in a detailed, RFP, a statement of work, or in a marketing brief. You inform the outsourced entity of what the expectations are upfront very specifically. Still keep ownership of that output, but let them know in certain parameters what is expected as far as an outcome. Because outsourcing is really part of how we're doing business in a global economy. It can bring diversity of thought to what you're doing, bring a really sensitive a set of expertise you don't have readily available to yourself, and probably flexibility in addition to the lower cost base. Because if you're just shifting responsibilities offshore without thinking about the business infrastructure that's needed, which means you have to establish the skill sets in-house in order to manage the outsourcing, I think quality can suffer, frankly. But if you put plans in place and you teach the individuals within the organization that outsourcing is part of how we're doing business, the end result can be not only similar to what we do, but sometimes enhance the work that we do.
And Evan, do you believe then that the middle manager is an endangered species in tomorrow's pharma?
So a middle manager that really just receives and executes direction from above, that kind of doles out work to direct reports, and what I would say just produces, PowerPoints that are data summary dumps, probably is an endangered species. But that's because our business can't support and won't support that type of activity from anybody. A mid-level employee who can synthesize strategy, can bring their expertise to bear, develop innovative business concepts, motivate their team, is going to flourish in this environment. In fact, I think it's more important than ever because there is no pride of authorship when it comes to a new idea or generating step change in business results. And a senior leader can't do that themselves. You require the body of your business to really get behind the strategy and the intent that you're going after. So what we need is adaptive leadership from middle management. And I think it's a really exciting time to be a middle manager in pharma because I think you have more accountability, more flexibility, and really an environment that's going to allow you to be successful now more than ever. And from that standpoint, I think that the middle managers can thrive in that environment, but aren't an endangered species by any stretch. They're really a valuable asset.
Do you believe that AstraZeneca is doing enough right now to foster talent development, mentoring, and other HR functions that help to retain top performers? Where are the people planning gaps in your company?
Pharmaceutical companies have to excel. Have to absolutely excel in two particular type of activities, and that's research and development and commercialization. And at the heart of us being able to excel exists people. And so talent development is really critical to an organization because it is what defines success and I believe differentiates an organization from its competition. We require people to solve very, very complex problems. It's your people who are top performers, who have consistently, based off of their experience and know-hows, are the ones who can not only innovate themselves, but encourage people to innovate. And we've talked a little bit today about motivation. It's the same thing. You've got to be able to motivate and create a culture of individuals who are willing to take on a little bit of risk. And so the way we do that at AstraZeneca is we do have a very structured talent development, mentoring, on-the-job learning programs. They help develop and foster diversity of thought and help people reach their full potential, whether it's from learning from other individuals or being put in a situation that requires them to stretch their abilities. So when you ask what are the people planning gaps, I think in any time of change like our organization and industry is going through, you need to plan to ensure that people have the skills necessary to adapt and change, and that's technical skills, that's collaboration skills, and that's leadership skills. So they're able to develop both on a business acumen standpoint and in a leadership abilities. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, I believe AstraZeneca takes very seriously the development of the individual because it is the only way that we can succeed and differentiate ourselves in the marketplace.
Looking at the bigger picture, what do you think the prevalent organizational model for Big Pharma will be in 5 years? Will it be a return to innovation and science or a distribution platform to commercially execute the inventions of others?
Look, the basic foundation of our industry hasn't changed throughout the decades. I'm a strong believer in that. And that's innovation drives the development of novel medications that impact patient health and is necessary for the vast majority of people that we serve day in and day out. It's just how we're doing the work has changed. It's the tools and resources that we have at our disposal have really accelerated how we look at chemical and biological opportunities. And so it does require organizations to really take an introspective look and say, how are we organized to take advantage of the knowledge base that we have and ensure that the products that we bring to market have impact to customers, which are patients, physicians, payers, all sorts of entities. That is the obligation that we have. And I think what is clear is that in the future, the organizational structure will definitively look different. We will potentially be more modular. I believe we have to be much more adaptive, and that means we've got to have less silos in an organization. It means we will continue to outsource, not only on research and development, but also on commercialization, and ensure that the best ideas, the clearest innovative concepts, the most beneficial products are brought into an organization, both in research and development constructs, to ensure that we as a pharmaceutical company can bring that to marketplace. So I do believe what is required and what will change in the future is more of an adaptive style in our employee base and also an organizational structure that will continue to ensure that we share ideas globally. Again, no pride of authorship. Wherever that best idea comes from, whether it's in the Far East, whether it's Europe, or just around the corner, that's how the company is going to change. And that's what excites me about being in the pharmaceutical industry, because it is exceptionally dynamic. It is a place that you can have tremendous impact on large groups of people, not only within your state or your country, but potentially around the world. And I think that that's why pharmaceutical companies will continue to do exactly what I said at the beginning, the two core things. Got to be involved in research and development, and you must be involved in commercialization activities. It's the only way you remain close to your customer and the needs in the marketplace.
Well, Evan, thanks again so much for your insight and for taking the time to speak with us this afternoon. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Sejadim Relationship Management is proud to bring you the Pharmaceutical Executives podcast series, Managing in the Era of Lean, featuring the winners of the 2011 Emerging Leadership Awards. For more information, please visit them on the web at www.cegedim.com.